And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Threatened Ganglia vodcast. This week we're doing Season 1, Episode 13 of Star Trek Discovery. What's past is Prologue. I am Corpulent Geek, and that over there is...
Sci-Fi Christina.
Yes, and we are here to bring you a weekly discussion of Star Trek Discovery. Just a quick heads up, there will be spoilers about this past week's episode, so if you haven't seen this week's episode, kindly come back later on, but please don't leave forever and ever, because it's a great show and we love talking with it about people. So, all that little intro stuff said, we're gonna at some point jump to, that was our little Clear All Moorings section, but now we're gonna start going all ahead full impulse.
Hey, honey.
Yeah?
What do they call a Jeffries tube in the Mirror Universe?
A Joffrey's tube.
And we learned never to turn your back on an angry emperor with a sword.
And Saru turns out to be the leader that we all knew he could be.
And moon doors aren't just for fantasy television shows. Second Game of Thrones reference.
Yeah, baby.
Moon doors in space. Sorry.
Well, you know, does the moon have any doors? Whoa, I just blew my own mind. Oh, we can't start off that way.
Have cheese wheels?
Well, you're just all over the place now. Oh, look, my little thing here didn't update. Let me hit this button again and see what we got going on.
Let's say it. I
haven't
heard noise come from anything.
Yeah. Could we have finally done it right? Could we finally have everything on mute properly?
Yeah, look at that. Look at me.
Anyway, all right. So that was our little brief all ahead full impulse section where we just call out a couple of fun things about the show. And now we are going to go to Warp, which is where we spend most of our time during these episodes, where we discuss things that happened and, expound on them. So, and we are definitely fanboys of the show. We love the show, but, you know, not everything on every show that you watch is going to be 100% super great. So we usually try to lead off with the stuff that we either didn't understand fully because, you know, certain shows that have season-long plot arcs and everything will have certain things that you're not going to pick up on right away or understand. And also maybe just some things that didn't make sense all the way. To me, Lorca's motivations for wanting Burnham seem to be a little bit undefined. And I really don't know if it was supposed to be love that he felt for her, but he didn't seem to really show that at all. He mentioned pillow talk, but of course, we all know in the Mirror Universe how stuff gets done. What was that shake for?
Because I read somewhere where they pointed it out where even in the Mirror Universe, he started off as a father figure. And he basically groomed her to become more. And that's just kind of gross. That whole relationship is
well, all right,
kind
you read
gross.
On the internet, but they mentioned it. We can only pull stuff from the show.
She used the words groomed. The Emperor did.
Yes, but we still don't know at what point Lorca came into her life. He could have came into her life when she was 18, 17, 18. How old is she supposed to be now?
How old is Burnham supposed to be now?
Yeah, you read a book on her.
But
no, that was a compliment.
Yeah,
Reading is fundamental.
I know, and I am trying to think of what they mentioned about her age. I can't remember. Although, I mean, she had graduated from the Vulcan Science Academy, and I'm going to assume she's at least in her mid to late 20s, especially because she'd made it all the way to first officer.
Right. So, in using the term groom, though, I mean, you can groom an apprentice that comes to work with you when they get there. So, he could have started grooming her when she was 18 and starting to...
The feeling that I got from the show, it was put into words that I agreed with. Like, the feeling from the show was that Lorca was in the Emperor's life first, and hence her calling her Pippa in that one scene. Like, I think that they had kind of been close. Mm-hmm. And then... And so I think he did originally start acting more as a father figure, and he's obviously older. And then he groomed her to kind of replace her adoptive mother.
All
so,
right.
I mean, I think there's enough to be Shudder-worthy there. And I think that his
You wanna be
motivations
gross
for
about it.
wanting her was because he had groomed her and it was like she was more of a possession to him. And I'm sure it was like all wrapped into like, love, lust, like because he obviously was willing to go through anyone and anything to contain her.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, all right. But so where's your view on, like, do we think that he loved her and that's why?
Oh, I don't think it was pure altruistic love.
Okay. But he didn't need her at the point when he took over the ship and everything, and he didn't need her anymore for him to be able to be emperor and maintain things. He still had a strong desire for her to lead by his side.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, they never expressed that, like, why. Like, they did such a good job with other things with his character and other characters in the show, and that was just something that I found lacking. Like, there wasn't a good definition as to why, like, they never showed us why he wanted.
Yeah, I would agree. I felt like they did do a decent job of kind of tying other things up nicer in neat little bows and giving us the information we needed to know. Like they I think did a very good job of summing up how they felt about how the rebels, not rebels, but the coup, Lorca and his number two, what was her name? Landry, how they felt about Mira Stamets. Yeah, no. How they felt about Mira Stamets. Like I feel like they did a very good job of kind of communicating that straightforward.
Yeah.
And being like, here we go. So now you don't know if they're just going to kill him or they're using him, or if he really is going to convince them that he's always useful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like it could have been clearer, but he's always kind of had that megalomaniac type feeling. So because he wants her is probably enough of an answer.
Yeah, all right. And if that's it, that's fine. It was just I was hoping for more out of it than just that, and not necessarily leader of the Klingon Empire. What? Anyway, all right. So did you have anything else that hit you this week that was like, I didn't like that, or I didn't like the way that went, or I didn't understand?
I didn't quite.
Uh-oh.
When Stamets had foreshadowed there's a clearing and that's how they go, and then he was actually traversing the network and it's, healing itself, so there's all these different pathways, bifurcating in front of him very quickly. Like he said, like, there's the clearing, and I don't know, I felt like most of that was like, I didn't feel like I needed graphics, because I felt like the graphics confused the words he was telling me. Like he said, "There's the clearing," and they went back to that. I'm like, nothing looks clear on that screen. Like, what do you mean there's a clearing?
Well, all the different things kind of coalesced into one. Like he really only saw the one path going on, so I can see that. But the terminology between the forest and the clearing in the forest, it didn't really make much sense. I do agree with that it wasn't really a clearing in the forest that they were seeing. Like he was able to just see,
but I guess that
a single tree in the forest.
That's one. But yeah, I that was a little odd. That kind of stuck out to me as I was watching it. But everything else was, I feel like as they're getting closer to the end, they're answering questions, and the questions that they're like, the answers that we're getting, I am liking, because I feel like I read all the clues right. Like of course that's true.
It
like,
does always
for
help
everyone who
when...
was surprised about Lorca, I was like, how can you be surprised? But that's okay, because you were getting something else out of the show.
Yeah,
hopefully it was good.
There are people that watch the shows at different levels, and it's great whatever level you watch the show at.
Yeah.
Unless you're watching at a very high level and just think it's terrible, in which case then no, you need to dig down more because you're wrong.
So I feel...
But it's your opinion, so it's fine.
I feel that, I guess, we're getting endings now, because we're getting answers, and I want them to be as satisfying as the questions were. And I think sometimes just in the nature of endings, they're less satisfying because it's ended. And so it's like I feel like, yeah, it's good, and it was still a very good episode because it was chock full. And I remember like halfway through it being like, oh yeah, everything's going down now. And then they got to that fight scene at the end, and it was beautiful. It was beautifully choreographed, and it was good. And there was little nuggets in it of people fighting each other, and like people shooting each other and blowing them up, and they're all on the same side and being stabbed at, and that was great. But then at the end it was like, oh well, now we're in something completely different, and all of that tension has been released, and it's kind of always a little bit of a letdown. But
how did we get to talking here about this? We're supposed to be talking about stuff we didn't like.
I didn't like how there are endings. I don't like endings.
Oh, okay. You don't like how
unless the change is going to be something just as fun, and I think it is, but I
you didn't like how in 3 Sundays there's not going to be new discovery for like a year.
That. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't like that. That's the part that I don't like. I guess it is a little off top.
It's gotten to the point now. Well, we're on to stuff we like, I guess now, but it's gotten to the point now where I'm pretty sure in the off season I'm going to have to read that book that you read.
You really should, especially because of how much you like Saru.
Yeah, well,
especially because.
Well,
and it's an easy read. I think that you would enjoy it.
All right, cool. I was unwilling to do it before just because we had so much going on, but now that we have all this time,
now I'm looking forward to the Lorca book too.
Yeah,
Lorca Georgiou book.
So remember, we got to tack back to that. I hate it when I use verbology like that. During Black Alert. So we can kibitz about some things, but do me a favor, make a note in our notes about that, because I definitely don't want to forget. And also for the viewers, just in case you don't know, the Black Alert segment of our show, it'll display down there on the bottom. Hey, yeah, over there. A little bit just like the Go to Warp is right now. And that is the section of the show where we talk about our future theories on the show and things that we think is going to happen. So I know that there are some people that don't like doing that at all. They want to be surprised. They don't want to think into the show deep. That's great. If that's you, once we go to Black Alert there, you're probably going to want to tune out. So, moving on. I want to hit a couple quick things in the miscellaneous section before we get to your big discussion point. I kind of felt bad for Stamets because it seems like in just about every universe he gets used by people, because in the Discovery universe he's getting used by the Federation for his spore drive to fight and win the war, and in the Mirror universe he's getting used by like the Emperor to power her stuff, and Lorca in the Overthrow, and he just never seems to have a will of his own.
Well, I mean, he has a will of his own.
Not a strong enough one to.
He just doesn't have the power to resist the way people want to use this. And I think that is representative often of people who have brilliant minds, because you cannot be brilliant at discovering and researching and also be savvy enough to protect your research and keep it out of either the wrong hands or keep, you rarely come in research scientists rarely come in that type of total package. So it is indicative of a great mind to have his inventions and discoveries used by someone for hopefully something. And that was why, like, in Prime Universe, his ideals mirrored the ideals of Starfleet. It was just this pesky war got in the way. Like, it probably could have been used more along his ideals, before it have been used as a weapon or to turn the tide of the war.
It probably would have been acquired in a much nicer fashion if Lorca didn't have anything to do with it.
Absolutely.
So. All right, maybe there's that. Now, there's two things I wanted to mention that I'm going to want viewers and also my wife to go back and check me on. The first thing is Saru's voiceover near the beginning of the episode. That was good stuff. I enjoy the captain's log equivalent of stuff. But to me, he sounded just like Sulu. And even when he said Saru, I was like, did he say Sulu? What's happening?
I did the same exact thing.
Did?
I did the same exact thing.
We didn't even talk about it.
No, we did not, and that was amazing.
Thank God.
I did the same. For a moment, it was like, did I just black out and we're watching a movie? like we put Discovery on, right?
Are they
like,
turning this universe stuff on its ear?
I was so confused. It was like all of a sudden they had met Sulu, and I was like, when did they do that?
How did George Takei keep this under his cap?
Yes.
Ooh.
No, I had done the same. And it really was. It was like my brain, because I think, again, we had closed captioning on, and my eyes saw Saru, but my brain was still yelling George Takei in my head. It was like,
it was clearly George Takei in my head.
No, I did the same thing.
Whew. And I went back and I listened to it a second time, and I was like, yeah, that still sounds like Sulu, even though I know it's not. And when Lorca meets his final demise after he's been stabbed and he's falling down into the whatever the hell you want to call that ball thing, there was clearly the sound of a TIE fighter scream when he was going down into that.
It was odd sounding because he didn't look like he was screaming until half his body had already kind of disintegrated, and then that was like a sound. And
I don't even know if that was him that was screaming, or it was just a noise that they threw in there. Maybe that's what powers the TIE fighter engines. Really, it's not ions; it's ground Lorca.
Ground Lorca.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I mean, it could be anything. Maybe bits of Lorca ended up over there, and they put that in all the engines. Either that, or we finally found the true identity of Snoke. Sorry. Anyway, all right. That's all I wanted to hit on before we got to your first talking point, and that is
what? That's not in this. That's not how this went.
Yeah, I said we were going to talk about your thing. Do you want me to jump on and keep going?
Oh, so we're going all the way down there?
Yeah, my thing? It's not necessarily in order.
Apparently, it isn't. So my thing. I wanted to discuss just a little bit the Giorgio and Burnham relationship. It's what a tangled web between these two universes that they have constantly interacted with each other in sort of a maternal child way, and also Burnham is constantly betraying her. I mean, even to the very end, because the last thing she did after she was told, I would like a warrior's death, I'm going to keep them off you, she went and yoinked her out of her universe. Whoa. And it was like, come on, woman, she just told you she just wanted to die with honor. And she was like, nope, not gonna let it happen.
I think betray is a strong word for using that for Burnham in the Battle of Binary Stars. And things.
No, I think mutineer is strong to use in the Battle of Binary Stars, but she clearly used the Vulcan neck pinch on her captain in her ready room and then walked out and did the opposite of what her captain told her to do. I kind of think that's betrayal.
All right.
I find that hard not to define that as...
All right, readjusting my list of things that's acceptable in our relationship. Check. No Vulcan nerve pinches. Done and done.
Well, not when I told you not to fire on someone.
Okay.
It's a complicated back and forth, and I think that we saw Georgiou when she's sitting at her table, not
eating Kelpian,
at the table, and wistfully thinking about her Burnham. You know, I think that we see some honest emotion there, because we have this picture of Terrans being, warlike, killing at all costs to maintain and to rise in the ranks, to maintain their powers. And here we see someone who is genuinely grieving the loss of someone, and in such an odd way that their doppelganger basically shows up to kind of betray her again. Mm-hmm. But it's really the first guy who had betrayed her was back, using another Burnham to betray her again. And so I think she was disheartened, and she had definitely lost any drive at that point. Like, she was very defeated. And our Burnham does a great job of using an impassioned argument to turn her around and get her on her side to help her, especially to help her execute her plan. And that is, I think, in contrast, in even kind of mirroring the, very logical argument that she was using with her right before the battle on the Shenzhou, when she was trying to get her to fire on the Klingons. And I feel like that's kind of a sign of her character growth, her, finding her humanity, because she very passionately spoke and got Emperor Giorgio to join her cause, and I thought that was kind of neat. That was kind of well done. And then they made
better
a great
than
team.
just stomping your foot and saying, we got to do it this way.
Yeah, or using a lot of logic on her, because clearly the Terran Empire wasn't going to be ruled by logic or and if she couldn't get her Giorgio to follow logic in the the Starfleet universe, then she wasn't going to get the Terran Empire to follow that type of coldness. So I think that she did a phenomenal job, and the Emperor even said, like, you almost make me believe, and I think that is something that she wouldn't have been able to do 7 months prior, or however many months prior. So that was interesting, and then their fight scene was fantastic. Loved it.
Yeah, that fight scene. There were two things. Two. Do you mind if I jump in?
No.
Okay. You're talking about the fight scene at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the throne room fight scene.
Two things that were great about that. Well, one thing that was great. One thing that was silly. I love how, for a moment, Lorca knocked down the Emperor or something. Or the Emperor was fighting 15 other guys over there on the side, so Lorca had a moment to stroll over and casually slice Landry in the back because she was fighting Burnham.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this guy, he's got nothing for his friends, does he?
Yeah.
But I guess that's the way things are in the Mirror Universe. Hey, you're fighting who I want to.
Well, and I think that he was an even more driven, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't really especially him, because Landry was shooting through their own to get through.
Landry was doing what?
Shooting through their own people to get to Burnham. Because there was one point where
I
Landry
didn't even see that.
Yeah, Burnham hadn't because the only people fighting in that room were the Emperor.
We're flying all around.
What are you doing?
So I realized that I never put my laptop up on the pad to allow airflow underneath so we don't overheat.
Yikes.
No one wants that. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, now I'm going to watch you do it on the replay. Oh!
No! So
so the only people fighting in that room were the Emperor and Burnham and everyone else, right? That was the groups against each other?
Yes.
Yeah. So at one point, Burnham was engaged with some red shirt, and Landry was behind him and had gotten a hold of a gun. She blasted the guy in front of her. He disintegrates, and then she engaged Burnham. And I was like, dude.
I feel like maybe I do remember
Holy moly.
It does make it easy when you shoot. It's not like the Federation guns where at the beginning, you shoot them and there's just a hole through them and ow. These ones, you shoot them and the person just entirely disintegrates.
Gone. I guess it makes cleanup much easier. And especially when there's going to be so much killing in the Terran Empire.
But then again, the weapons that Team Lorca was using were the disintegrator ones. Team Emperor was actually killing them and just leaving their bodies. Because they were dropping bodies in that hallway fight. The Emperor.
At the end?
No, the first fight when they had that big shield.
I would assume that...
Yeah, both our shows this week had big shields across the bad guy. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's true. And they look similar. Anyway.
What?
I felt like they both had that kind of grid look to them.
Oh, I thought you meant the actual thing. I was like, Giorgio does not look like a Kree at all.
No. And he thought he was a god. She was just an emperor.
True.
Anyway. But we digress.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I think that there was a wide variety. I think that the Terran Empire guns had a variety. There were some that could just kill you, and then there were some that made you know more.
All right, cool. All right. So anything more on Burnham and Giorgio?
Nope.
Giorgio.
I think that was a fitting end in the fight. I think that Burnham not killing him was fitting, and the Emperor killing him, and it was a great setup. She was like, "No, I'm not gonna do it," and the Emperor was like, "But I will."
Yeah.
Yoink.
And in Black Alert, I'm sure we'll talk more about the implications between Burnham saving Giorgio, both as characters and as overall story.
Yeah.
All right. So
what's next?
I'm gonna jump in, and what do you think I'm gonna talk about, honey?
More Lorca?
No. Could it be possibly the best character on the show? Shut up, all you people who don't agree that Saru's the best, because he is. Y'all just don't recognize it yet. Did you hear that speech? Did you hear the words? Oh, hold on. I had a whole thing for this.
Uh-oh.
We're turning into Archer all of a sudden.
Do your whole thing.
Ba-blam. Well, I just got some pictures of Saru. There right now up is I was taking screenshots today trying to get him while he was young. Fire!
I love
At the exact moment.
Fire!
I'm gonna have to learn how to do a GIF of that, because that was good stuff. I enjoyed that very much.
You really should learn how to do a GIF of it, though.
I can't believe that you would derail the entirety of this show just to mispronounce a word.
People are coming for the comedy, honey.
You deceived us.
I loved that art, that one where they have the speech and then the art of him. And
Yes.
I saw that one earlier and I really, really liked it.
Yeah, you can blow that up. Yeah. I don't know how you can find it on your own. I don't know how I found half of this stuff. I'm just out there all the time trolling Twitter. The only one I know where to go to search for is the art I put up on the thumbnail thing. And that guy on the Twitter, he's awesome. That artwork he does for every episode. He does a bunch of other shows too, like all the new X-Files he does. And he does a lot of retro. I just moved away from the mic like 8 feet and thought you people could still hear me. So everybody, I'm over here now.
We are professionals.
Yeah, that's cool. He does a bunch of retro ones, so he's been doing Quantum Leap ones also.
Ooh.
Yeah, so, all right, so I got derailed. Hold on, we're talking about
sure
Saru. I got all
Saru.
dreamy-eyed and got all like, ooh.
Lay it on us. Tell us how awesome he is.
Yeah, so he is no longer the Saru that we saw when Lorca got kidnapped, whatever. He's no more starting a database to track his decisions and to map it to the best captains of the Federation. Yeah. There's no need for any more of that. He just knows what to do. They come up in that situation. He even seemed like not really bothered by being told that Lorca has been a bad guy. He's like, well, that doesn't really seem possible, but all right, let's move on, because we have this other important stuff, like the entirety of all universes being destroyed to deal with. And I'm even happy that they called out specifically that Saru even said, my Ganglia failed me. How could that be? But I'm convinced it was just because he being Lorca was never really a threat to Saru directly. If anything, Lorca wanted Saru to succeed to help get him back. So
yeah, and I don't think Lorca's goal, like his specific goal, was never to kill them, to have the ship destroyed. He had other goals, and his
goal was to get back to there, so that ship to survive and do well was good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and during that speech of his in engineering, like, bad news came out. Oh, we can't possibly do this and live at the same time. And he didn't even like really pause. There wasn't much of a delay before he stepped up and started giving his speech, which is the right thing, which is what the captain's supposed to be doing. But you know how he was able to do it so quick? He was able to do it so quick because all the things in his head that he said were things he was probably saying to himself for years as he got to be a commander in Starfleet and a first officer, because people of his species don't do that. And he had to say, hey, you know what? No-win scenarios aren't really a thing. Hey, you know what? We can do this. We got this. No problem. We're good at our job. We have good friends. We're a tight crew. We can get all this done. And so I think he was very well suited for that. But that speech that he gave was definitely Picardian throwbacks to Kirk. Just very, very enjoyable for me to see. And also something that everyone that said this show isn't Star Trek enough needs to watch, because then they'll be like, oh, well, why didn't they start this shit on the first episode?
Yeah.
And I say to them that, well, this is kind of like the first episode, because he even calls it out and says that this is the maiden voyage of the Discovery.
Yep.
In this. So in a way, it seems to me like now the show Discovery is really starting, where it's about the ship and crew all together, whereas like all the rest of this has really been prologue.
Yeah, which is, I think, exactly what
they were going
I
for.
think exactly what the showrunners and the writers, I think that was the point. That was the entire point.
Yeah.
What's past is prologue, and it's it's even like more beautiful to me because this show really did have a prologue. They did a 2-episode
they did
arc
a prologue
that was 6 months before the show actually was going on, and so it was like, haha, you thought that was the prologue. This is actually the prologue. We've been having this Terran Empire guy as a captain. Of course he didn't seem like Starfleet. Of course these decisions didn't feel like the Star Trek you came to know and love. And I mean, I love it. I love it for what they did and how they presented it, and how I feel like because you had to live through all of that, the ideals of Starfleet were even more starkly highlighted because you were contrasting it with all of these decisions you had seen this guy make as a captain for these episodes. And I think that's what they were trying to do. I think they were really trying to get back to that feeling of like, this is what Starfleet is about. These, instead of just it being an everyday occurrence, they kind of made it, you had to like really reach for it and strive for it and get there. And it really was, when he was giving that speech, like all of the uniforms were back to Starfleet uniforms. Tilly's hair was back to...
I know Tilly's hair was back, but were they still...
After he announced like, this is our maiden voyage. Okay. After that scene, Tilly's hair was back. Everyone's uniforms were back to Starfleet. Like they were done. They were done with the Terran Empire. They were done with all of these cockamamie plots by Lorca. And it was now, Saru was in charge, and he was in charge. Like the leadership that he showed from that point onwards. And when he was on the bridge and just calling out like, all right, we're putting this plan into place, and he was like, all right, boom, 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 you do this and you do that and you hurry up. And then that fire was...
To me, this show makes it seem like they do more planning. The bridge crew and the captain together do more planning than the other shows. The other shows always, it seemed like more seat of your pants, and like Data or Wesley or something like that would come out with some cool science thing that we can throw in there at the last minute and figure this thing out with.
Yeah.
And this one, they, like, everyone on the bridge knew what was going on and knew what the plan was going into it. And I'm sure that there were tons of other episodes that felt that way, and being outlandish here. But it, like, all the head nodding leading up to it, like when Burnham got on the comms with Saru when Lorca was there and said, I'm right where I need to be. And all that was good. Like, we saw their whole interaction before, and they didn't go through everything. Like, when I say I'm right where I need to be, that means fire these photon torpedoes and blow this stuff up. That part was seat of your pants a little bit more, because she was like, I don't really know how I'm going to get in here and make this work, but I will. And you and I, we're brother sister, so we'll figure it out. Not really brother sister. It's okay. But yeah.
And so. I like that they identified the problem. Like, she told them, or she told them Lorca's a bad guy. They told her that thing that
we can one up that.
Yeah, I know. Lorca's a bad guy. You guys got to get out of here. And they were like, no, we need to tell you something. Yeah. You got to take down the containment, and because this ship is destroying the
end of everything
life
everywhere
as we know it. And so, they had this first go around of the plan, and they're like, okay, well, we need to disrupt this, we need to do that. And then they like ran some more scenarios, and they're like, so we can't just shoot at it with photon torpedoes. That's not going to work. We actually need to shoot at it with spore warheads. And
how didn't they come up with that before, though?
The spore warheads?
Yeah.
Because I think the idea was like, we don't want to use our spores, especially because their whole, all of the things that they were growing spores with had died. And so they were like...
No, I meant before that, like back in the Klingon War, when they were growing as many spores as they damn well pleased.
Well, because I don't think a spore warhead would have affected the Klingon ships. It was because they were shooting at this mycelial energy ore. Right. Okay, and that was why they had to use the spore warheads.
All right, if that's true, then...
And then, like, he gives this speech. There's there aren't any no-win scenarios. And then they went back to the drawing board, and we saw I like the way they scienced things in this show. It was very obvious that they had to work problems, and it wasn't always like we're working a problem, but we're showing you work. We're showing us. Let me try this again. It wasn't
words.
The writers saying we're showing them working this problem because we need a scene of character development and something else, because that was obvious. That was something I know that happened in Next Generation a lot of times, when you would see them in engineering, like working on the problem, but what they're really doing is conversing about the other problem or the character driven problem.
Yeah.
And in this time there was a lot of sciencey working on problems, and so that's what she said. Like, they were back in engineering going, I reran this stuff and I looked at these things and look, we can do this wave.
Yeah.
And I liked how she would like set it up and then Samus would knock it down. And he goes, oh no, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
It's mycelium energy. Hey, wait a minute. We've got this entire drive that'll run off of that.
And, you know, I'm really excited to see a captain that's science-based. Because, like, how science-based was Janeway? Because she's the only one I'm not sure about. The rest of the captains were like standard captain, and they're no dummies. I'm not saying that, but they didn't come from a strictly science background. And I'm excited to see Saru coming up with ideas and everything from the science aspect, and that seems to be lead more to why like everyone like seemed to have their shit down on that bridge.
Yeah.
And also that was a common complaint of a lot of people that what's going on with the rest of the bridge crew? I want to find out more about them. And rightfully so, we didn't learn a lot about them because we didn't need to up until this point. Yeah. But this episode they started like, you know, having ideas and voicing them so that us, the audience, could see that.
Ariam had like 10 lines.
Yeah. Like, with that terrible
cool
voice. She needs a different voice modulator.
I would really hope in the 23rd century that all of our cyborg...
Maybe that's what she wants. I mean, you know, you're right. I'm sure that she could have any type of voice in there she wants. Is Majel Barrett still alive?
Oh, man. It was like...
At the same time?
It was right here. It was entering the back of my mouth. My tongue was starting to form the M, and it just came out of your mouth. And I was like,
Sorry.
Nerds. I would say, of course I would choose...
No, sorry. But, so where we're... Oh, yeah, the rest of the bridge crew. Yeah, so that even is more with the fact that the show's really starting now, so we're going to start learning about everyone.
Yeah. Right. I'm excited what they're setting up. Which I'm excited for the whole show.
Yeah.
Every time they do something. And it does help the endings not be quite so sad.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, yeah.
All right, just a couple more things we got to touch on during Go to Warp. And I just have to mention it here so that people in the regular end of the broadcast know. But did you see that single green spore that went and landed on Tilly's shoulder when they were all done? What's the deal with that?
What was that about?
Yeah, we don't know. We're going to talk all about that in Black Alert because there's nothing that we can say right now that has any that isn't just spoilery conjecture. Spoilery conjecture.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't even need to cover that. Let's scroll down there. Let's talk about Lorca a little bit before we get into the
Lorca.
Anything about the ending. The ending. So, what's your view on Mirror Universe Lorca? You like him? You hate him? You think he's
well, obviously as a guy, he's I hate him.
He's aces in your book? You want to go take him to the bar?
No.
A little Saurian brandy?
Is it poisoned?
Oh, well.
Yeah, no. I mean, as a character, he sucked, but he also put all of this in motion. So it's what made the story. Maybe not as a character, as a person, as a character, he was fascinating. And Jason Isaacs
Hold on, we're not talking about Saru anymore, so I gotta take away his
Saru
cool
down
picture. Leave Saru up all the time. I can't wait till I get a Saru back there. Someone needs to do some art for me so I can get some. Hint.
Well, wait, what? I don't do art.
You buy art though.
Oh, I'll buy art, yeah.
All right, good. Sorry.
Jason Isaacs brought a beautiful amount of nuance to that character. I've loved his performance throughout the entire season. He from day one, it was like, well, something's up with this guy. Like, that's how I felt. He was written that way, and Jason Isaacs just has that look. I mean, maybe it doesn't help that he constantly plays bad guys, and so you tend to see him and be like, this guy can't be good. I would need to seek out some projects of his that he didn't play bad guys, and then say...
Are there any?
I don't know.
I think he's in a movie now that's a comedy where, like, I think he's supposed to be a bad guy. It's about, like, Russian overthrow during one of the Russian overthrow times. Not in our lifetime. But it's supposed to be a comedy, and it, like, isn't allowed to be shown in Russia.
Oh, well, that sounds good.
Yeah. So much so that they were setting up viewings of this, like, on the, like, either Norway or Swedish border.
Oh, wow.
And so Russians could come over and watch it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, sorry. I
cool.
Broke in there again.
There's a spatial anomaly for you.
Oh, shit, there is.
So let's just edit that out. Take that out.
Okay. 1 second.
Nuts, we're live. I think I've said all I need to say. I liked the character. I liked the portrayal. I don't like the person. He was pretty shitty.
He was.
Yeah.
All right. So, I wanted to add to that. Someone asked in the Facebook, we always go live on Facebook when we're not always, but when we're getting ready for the show, and someone asked, will we see Lorca again? And that's going to have to be something we cover in Black Alert, and I might have dropped a hint already to something I think could possibly be a possibility. But
Possibly.
yeah, but the short of it is I don't think so.
Now, granted, they're paid and make agreements for how they talk about their roles in shows, but Jason Isaacs basically sounded like he was done. Like
Yeah.
he had dropped the mic and that was it. Like his role in Star Trek Land was done. But
I definitely did like in After Trek how they asked him, did he think that with like his training of the Discovery crew, they would be able to persevere and make do with the Klingon war that's going on now, what they come back to find. He's like, I don't care.
yeah, he really
totally
was like,
in
I
character.
could have given, I couldn't have cared less about the Klingon War.
Now, I hope he was still in character there, not being Jason Isaacs, not giving a damn about the show anymore now that he's not on it.
No, I think he was talking as his character. But
I hope so as well.
Yeah.
All right, so there was that. Will we see Lorca again? I do feel like one thing fell apart with his character, though. And this harkens back to something I should have said before. In the regular Discovery universe, Mirror Lorca is a master manipulator. And he got over on everyone. No one suspected that he was a Mirror Universe copy.
No, yeah. I'm pretty sure that's because, like, that concept, that idea was so foreign. Like, of course not.
Well, all right.
Who thinks that? Who thinks, like, well, you're not quite right. You must be some sort of doppelganger.
So that's just me?
Well, I mean, with having been so heavily steeped in the traditions of Star Trek, yes, my thought would be like, you've grown a goatee. Who are you?
I'm pretty sure that I would have some of these type of feelings already of alternate universes and everything. Yeah. But in once they get back to the Mirror Universe, I would have thought that he would have found a way to manipulate Michael Burnham into staying with him if he was so intent on getting her there. Like, all he had to do was be like, Michael, with your help, we could maybe turn the Terran Empire more like the Federation, and there would be less Destructo Kitty? And like, that would at least be something, not just like, stay here with me, I've got no good reason why you should. Like, everything that you came from is going to crap, but stay here and we can kill people together. It's like that.
Yeah, I understand. I
feel like his character kind of fell apart, and maybe, I mean, I could see something like that happening so close to someone having their ultimate goals. Like, he was there, and there's a certain energy involved in that.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
losing
he even
control.
said, like, those who say like the attainment of victory is hollow are fools. Like, he was riding high on his win, and I think that when he enters in a plan of manipulation, like, all of the different things have to be laid out correctly, and for him to try and say that to her after clearly having used her to that point, like, I think that he kind of knew that the bridge was burned, yet he thought that I think he was a true believer in his destiny. Like, I think he truly believed that he was due the victory that he got. And so that even if he didn't have all of the bits of plan in place to attract her to stay with him, that it would just happen. And it
Destiny.
Kind of did. Like, she walked in and said, yeah, I'm going to, like, and I think he had kind of gotten blinded by destiny at that point, which is why he didn't see the double cross happening. But I think that's kind of what happened. He had been working so long at this manipulation and this plan that he had kind of gotten right up there at the winning point, and it was like, no, she'll stay. This is how this is supposed to work.
Yeah. All right. A question in the room was, when will Tilly stop being a cadet?
Good question. One I asked myself.
She did. She did
during the
during
second
the show.
time I was watching the show. I was like, "Don't they have field promotions?" And he was like, "Who would be there to give it?" And I was like, "Anyone above her?"
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's certain protocols that have to be followed, and also there wasn't a real need because there wasn't a vacancy that needed to be filled.
I think anyone who's done as much work as she was doing, the vacancy was just not calling her cadet. Like it sounded odd from the beginning. Like having a cadet on board seemed weird to me.
You can have the advanced cadets that get there and like this is their last stage. It's like an intern.
I guess so, but on the experimental ship?
Yeah, but she obviously showed an acumen for that job and
True.
and to do that kind of stuff. And if you notice now, Stamets, whenever I don't even know if he's called her cadet recently, but he doesn't say it with that disdain in his voice anymore.
No, he definitely has
he's looking at her as a peer.
Yeah, he has a mutual respect for her now.
So,
like, and I think not just because of her science smarts, but because of how she engaged with him as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she was there to support him mentally, and I think that he realizes that was important, and it's important
and to call out to the boyfriend and like, hey, he's been lying to you all this time. Oops.
Oh no,
that part wasn't the greatest, but yeah. Oh gosh, I'm all lost in my notes now.
Lost in notes.
Yeah, I don't know how we got to. Oh, there was a question.
That was a question.
All right,
Questions from
the last thing I want to mention in the Lorca section, which is going to kind of lead us right into. Talking about the ending. So no, but there seems to be some discussion in one of Lorca's speeches at the beginning, if all his people were in the agonizers for 1 year and 212 days. Or was it just 212 days? And like he said, a year, 212 days specifically, like if it was meant that way.
Yeah, I guess it read kind of like 1 year, 212 days of agonizing torture. Like that was kind of how it felt. But when I
still thought I heard an "and" in there, even though it wasn't on the closed caption.
Yeah, I probably should have re-listened to it without closed captioning on to see if I could detect an "and." But I don't think it makes sense that it would be only 212 days.
Yeah, and
someone
for him to
try
call
and
it a year.
Yeah, ran that up to a year.
Unless they were captured for a year and only an agonizer boost for 212 days. Like
I couldn't see that being a thing.
Maybe they sat around for 143 days or 53 days in just regular cells, but that's a long time. Anyway, But I hope not, because I went through a whole thing that involved mathematics.
Serious algebra.
It wasn't that serious, but I do have a degree in it. In the Black Alert section, we'll talk more about that. So let's talk about that ending a little bit.
That ending, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, they came back through and no one was answering their hails after they found out, yeah, we're in the right spot, but I missed it by 9 months. I was close. I was trying. The clearing in the forest was 9 months down the road. Little did I know. But yeah, and the war didn't seem to go too well for them.
Nope. It wouldn't. The other side had invisibility screens. Yeah,
the other side had invisibility screens, and we went and took off for another universe for 9 months with the little key to figure out how to see them.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, there was probably this ship flying around that looked just like our ship, and that could fly right up to Starbase 46 and, blow it the hell up.
Wreaking havoc. Yeah, I can't imagine what Captain Killy was doing on this side of the universe.
Having her boots licked a lot, I'll bet.
Yee. She's got a pile of tongues.
Ew. Good Lord, now I'm just picturing her captain's chair with just a big mountain of tongues next to it.
I pictured her bed.
That's so gross.
Just laying on a mattress pad of tongues.
Ew. All right, we've gotten disgusting.
Sorry.
and guess what I realized? I realized that we needed to change the name of one of our sections.
Oh no.
Yes, this next section it used to be called spatial anomaly detected, but now it's going to be wormhole detected because all the rest of the stuff deals with our traveling abilities, like clearing all moorings from a star base and everything. And just a spatial anomaly detected, that didn't have anything to do with travel. But wormholes, obviously, from Deep Space Nine, is a mode of travel.
True.
So, but normally we'd talk
making improvements during the show.
Yeah, and talking it through with our fans,
Woo!
all 9,000 of them.
All right, but we didn't have anything in our wormhole, so I guess we'll just take it straight into the next one.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, sadly there isn't much in the wormhole because we're spending all our time talking about the show. It's so killing me. It is. So it's very enjoyable, but you know, sometimes things happen. Like before, there was Star Trek Cruise the weeks between, and silliness went on there, like the Riker Maneuver Challenge that went on in one of the things that was judged by Jonathan Frakes. So that's all kind of fun stuff. Awesome. All right, people. So now we're not going to have a rehash of last week where we jump back and forth a bunch, right? We're about to enter Black Alert, and we're not going back to Warp once this is done, right? Because thousands of people emailed me that they tuned out at this point. And
then they heard we'd gone back and discussed something else.
Yeah. All right. So we're okay. We're gonna go. We're gonna go to Black Alert.
Disappointed.
The walls are gonna get moist. Are we ready? All right, everyone. If you're about to leave, see you next Tuesday. Thank you. Subscribe. Click the bell.
Black Alert.
Over there.
Black
Is
alert.
it over there? Is it up there? I have no idea where anything is.
Well, it's going to be underneath you, right?
Probably. I hope.
Underneath you on your Darth Vader side.
On my Darth Vader side?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
okay.
no, the bell. The bell's up at the notification bell. Oh, that's up in the corner.
That's your notification bell. You would think we know anything about YouTube.
Oh, no, that's right. It's underneath you.
Yeah, whatever.
On your that side.
All right, we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Next 2 more episodes left only. That's so sad, but we can get through it together. Bye. All right, so now...
Black Alert.
Black Alert.
Black Alert.
Moisture falling everywhere. I actually asked... I could have talked about this in the wormhole thing.
You're so horrible.
I am. Ted Sullivan was stuck waiting for his flight, and he said, ask me anything on Twitter. And I asked him, so what's the deal with the moisture from the black alerts that used to be going on before? And I suggested it was like, so since Stamets couldn't figure out how to make everything run right initially, is that what the deal was? Like once they got everything running right, then no more condensation everywhere? He's like, that sounds all right to me. And I was like, you guys don't even think about that, did you? So
you don't need to think about everything. But look, you just wrote a little bit of canon.
Well, but it's possible that I struck onto something and he couldn't say exactly what it is. Like somehow that moisture is pinnacle to resetting the timeline and fixing canon everywhere.
Water.
Yes.
Just add water.
No, not any water. The specific condensation on the sides of the ship. They got to collect it all. They got to go real fast so it all sloshes back to the nacelles, and then they collect it all up. Shut off the inertial dampers for a few minutes. Let all that water gather back there.
Universe.
Kale Universe, yeah. All right, so now, all right, I'm all distracted now. All right, so yes, so which universe? If you've tuned into this part of the show before, I believed that the Discovery universe is here, and the Mirror universe is here, and over here is where the original series universe was. And I think that we started off here and we got into the Mirror one, and then that they were going to jump back from the Mirror universe into the original series universe. That's how I thought that they were going to fix up everything with any kind of canon. Don't look that way. Come on. It could have happened. It still technically could happen because they could try and fix things and screw up and jump somewhere else.
True.
But I don't think that would happen because now we've invested too much. Like they've shown what their leaving has caused. And so they wouldn't leave that universe without trying to get back to it to save the Klingons. So
yeah, that would be a real tragic ending.
To save the Klingons. to save the Federation from the Klingons.
It would have been somewhat tragic if they had left the mirror universe and ended up in the like true Prime universe, because then we'd all like conjecture like, oh, they probably lost to the Klingons and now everyone's being ruled by them. But now that we've seen it, then it would be much more tragic if they try to go back and fix it and then they end up in some other universe and be like, whoa.
Well, but the worst case,
nurse to them,
though, should have been, if it was just the Klingon War, the worst case should have been that it took them a little longer to figure out how to get around the cloak, because they had a technique that they know would have worked in several days of observing a Klingon ship if they could manage to smuggle those sensors on. Some other ship should have been able to do that, not necessarily with all the jumps that Lorca needed, but they should have been able to figure it out in some which way. So I would have thought...
But they may not have ever gotten to the chance.
The stuff went that bad that quick? Ugh.
It was going that way.
Ugh. Anyway, so I think that part is doubtful. So, Hun, do you have any conjecture on how they're going to try and fix things while also maybe trying to realign canon? Because
because it is important, I think, to realign canon. The spore drive can't be allowed to get out of this season.
Well, now it's not even just a spore drive. Now it's that 20% of the Federation is ruled by the Klingons, because there was never this war.
Yeah.
There was never this giant war that a third of the fleet got destroyed and 20% of the Federation got taken. So now it's even way worse. Before, it could have been like, spore drive gets classified, whatever, and there was a 6-month fracas with the Klingons. But now we're a 15-month fracas and fifth of the Federation gone.
So in the original series, they were at that point where Klingons hadn't been seen in a long time.
I'm not 100%
okay
on this, but I feel like they hadn't had a lot of interaction with them.
Yeah, they were still kind of feeling each other out.
Yeah, and they definitely didn't know they didn't know about the screens, and there wasn't this,
because in the movies there's definitely animosity.
Yeah, because I
feel like there's like a post-war animosity. So there was no war. I mean, I think a fracas is in line with canon.
All right.
Which is why
a fracas could be in line with canon.
Which is why there would be why Kirk had so much animosity for them, and why it took a long time for peace to build.
They killed his son that he didn't really know about.
My son. Yeah. But yes, this all-out war where the Federation took a really big blow definitely doesn't feel right. I don't know. I would think that if they're going to introduce time travel, that it's the gun on the wall, and that they're going to use it to fix everything.
Personally, I was shocked that they went with time travel after introducing mirror universes, because there were tons of people.
Do all the things?
Yeah, there were tons of people that were talking about that. Oh, they're going to use time travel to fix all the mess that they're doing with everything. I'm like, no, they would never introduce time travel and end this at the same time. And during the episode, I'm pretty sure it was Stamets that said, "Get us back to our place and around the same time." It was like, oh man,
as soon as he said that, I was like, well, we're gonna travel through time, people. Hold on to your butts.
All right, but so do you mind if I jump into my math thing I did before? I was going to explain it to the people out there. You cool with that?
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to cover before I start?
Nope. Probably going to use time travel.
It deals with the time travel stuff
that
we're already talking about.
Yep.
All right, so here we go. We have I'm putting up some graphics over your face, so sorry. You got to scooch down if you want to be seen. So the Mirror Universe window, I believe that it was 1 year and 212 days that Lorca mentioned in his talk. And no matter what, to be so specific as to give 212 days even, hey, you're there. Hey, look at that. Can you see it? Do you like the colors I picked there? I picked purple just for you.
I do.
Purple and orange. That's our colors here, except for my Twitter handle. I don't know why that has to be yellow. And black alert. Black alert has to be red because it's not red alert. Anyway, so their time in the agony booths was a year and 212 days. So a year, if you break that out between like 12 months and you take 3 months away from the 212 days, you're left with 122 days over there. So you got 15 months plus 122 days is the same thing as a year and 212 days, right? Did I do all that math right?
Yeah.
90 minus that? Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So now that's all the mirror universe window. And I'm still going to call it the Discovery Universe just on the off chance that they're
That
in
this
another.
is not Universe Prime.
Yeah. Come on, it could happen. But anyway, so in the Discovery Universe, you have the Battle of the Binary Stars to episode 3. We know that break was 6 months, right? Because they said that the war's been going on for 6 months.
Yeah.
From episode 9, which was the end of the Battle of Pavo, to when they do the jump to what ends up being the Mirror Universe, and then back, that's 9 months from when they left.
Check.
So 9 months plus 6 months is 15 months.
Check.
On the other side over there, we have 15 months. So those two things cancel out. So now, if we go, and if you assume that the time between episode 3 and episode 9 is about 122 days, other people out there, hi. Now I'm covered up a little bit too. Wait, if I go over here, hi. Other people can go and figure out if I'm quite possibly right or not. It's fun. All right, I'll make all that go away. Here, hold on. Boop. All right, we're back.
All right.
So if you assume that it's about 122 days between episode 3 and episode 9, then we have a well-defined block of time to get stuff done in. And I think that that's how they're going to use time travel in the show so that they don't end up breaking everything and just make it just be a show about time travel.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to fix stuff and be able to go back and fix and prevent the Battle of Binary Stars from ever happening. And it's how Burnham is going to be able to go back and prevent her mutiny and like Hugh Culber won't be dead and Ash Tyler won't be dead.
The real Ash Tyler
won't be dead. But the thing is that like who ends up dying between now and then to get this done? Who has to die to make it happen? Because some more people have to die.
Oh no.
And also L'Rell is going to be able to go back and influence the Klingons to not try and do this. Like the L'Rell that we have now with the scar is going to be able to go back through time with them because she's on the ship and she's going to go talk to Kuvma and from everything that she's learned about the Federation, because she definitely like her interactions with Cornwell, I think that we're going to get more of, we might even get some of the stuff that they shot before that they said was taken out because they had a lot of good interaction between Cornwell and L'Rell for that scene that they said got shot, but we never saw. So I think that maybe L'Rell has learned that to act more honorable towards your enemies, and also that the Federation really means what they say, and they're not looking out to try and take over anything, because that's what I think the Klingons were worried about, that they would come in, not so much invade their space, but get into their space and introduce their thing. But once she realizes that the Federation has rules about interacting with other species and societies, especially warp-capable ones, and it's like, you don't want us here? Okay. Good luck. We'll be right here if you need us. So I have no idea how that's going to happen, but I think that time frame stuff was important. Of course, if it only ends up that it was really just 212 days, all that stuff I did putting
all that
stuff
math
up,
is right in the garbage.
Yeah, whatever. It was nice. It was like
fun, and it does seem to line up suspiciously well.
Yeah, and calling out specific numbers of days is, for this show, with how they've dropped hints and other things at other times,
yeah,
is odd.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else on that big overall fix you wanted to discuss before we move on?
Big overall fix. Oh, fix to the canon and timeline.
Yeah, canon timeline thing.
I
We still have the.
I hope people aren't angry if they go back and basically all of these actions become kind of null and void, because these characters grew in that time. Like, the things that they learned, the people who they became is important. Even if because hopefully they're just going to erase the bad things.
Well, but then what happens when there's two of everyone that's on the Discovery? That's the main thing. Like, there's going to have to be some kind of situation where everyone that's on that Discovery, they're then going to have to make the sacrifice they were ready to make in the mirror universe, where they weren't going to be able to survive. They're then going to have to make the sacrifice of never, like, maybe the Discovery will, I don't know, but they will cease to exist in that timeline. Like, that timeline will cease to exist. And so they're essentially killing everyone, but it's in order to save and create their timeline, one where everyone will live. But someone at all that mess has to go into that and survive.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't like thinking about that. Thanks.
You're welcome. Sorry, it's what I do.
Poop.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't like thinking about that at all. Man.
No, it's not good.
All right.
The only one I could really think of that could successfully do it and doesn't really have much to go on past the Battle of the Binary Stars is Voke. Like, they would have to have, she would have had to have pushed Voke's consciousness down into Tyler and not killed him, because Voke was like destined to die.
Yeah,
thing, and he didn't really have much. But
I feel like that is a level of convolution that.
Well, some level of convolution is going to have to happen if they're going to do this. But I still don't know exactly what it is. Anywho,
I was so on board with that until I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I just want them to go back and replace.
Well, all right, that would be optimal if they somehow pop in and everyone, like, they all know everything that they've known all that time.
Yeah.
But how to convince
yeah
people of that happening? What about Lorca? Because he went at a different time. So now, but he's not there anymore, so they couldn't have him.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll just go back 9 months.
Maybe. Anyway, all right. We gotta move on. We still haven't seen Harry Mudd again, and we were supposed to.
I know. That's where is Harry Mudd?
Yeah.
That's been every episode this year since the coming back from the break has been. So where's Harry Mudd?
Yeah.
I thought for sure we were going to see a Mirror Universe Harry Mudd.
Yeah.
I thought for sure
we
were going to
too.
see altruistic Harry Mudd, and I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
But we'll see him somewhere, hopefully.
All right. Real quick, since Mike asked the question in the other room before, I don't think we're going to see Lorca again. I think it would be.
I have no interest in seeing his Starfleet self.
Yeah, there's no need to see that, and it wasn't really about his character. It was about all the good Starfleet characters that good meaning like not Mirror Universe ones that we knew on the Discovery.
Yeah.
And Georgiou.
He wasn't growing. He didn't have growth as a character. He truly did have a destiny. It was a destiny to go from A to B and then be done. And he did that, and then that was the end of his plot.
That said, though, if we are going to see Lorca again, Mirror Universe Lorca, who would be the interesting one, the only way I could see it happening is if when Lorca was falling into the sphere, he got sporized, and like his consciousness, everything driven down into a single spore, a single green spore.
Bah.
And he fell on Tilly.
Bah.
That's what I got. And we already did talk a little bit about Captain Killy helping the Klingons win the war. But then what happened to the Discovery, the ISS Discovery, when the USS Discovery came back in? Did it pop back over to the Mirror Universe? In which case, about like season 7, we're going to have to deal with the Mirror Universe, Emperor Killy coming over to kill everyone because everyone else of importance in that universe has been wiped out. You know that she's going to wreck shop.
Well, how are they going to come over, though?
I don't know. They'll fly into an ion storm. They'll figure it out.
Just flying things into ion storms.
Yeah.
Transporting and flying.
Yeah. All right. So green spores. Still haven't seen mud. All right. My biggest fun thing that I want to talk about that I realized.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but it's fun. Why would you have a story about time travel and the time travel be 9 months if you weren't going to make someone be pregnant? Why would you do it? You wouldn't do it. That's why. You would be a smart person and say either 8 months or 10 months. I guess you could have said 10 months too, because then she would have been able to have a little bit more time to lose the baby weight. But I think that she had enough baby weight time to lose. No, none of that was right.
Whee!
Time to lose baby weight. But you know she's in awesome shape because she was able to keep this baby even while being tortured by Klingons and being electrocuted and being flown to star bases. What am I saying? I'm saying that Mirror Universe Lorca put a bun in Admiral Cornwell's oven.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, it's fantastic. Come on. Everyone loved Lorca. We're going to have evil baby Lorca. It'll be like Stewie from...
He will come out with a goatee.
Yeah,
that will be the goateed character.
Yeah, he will. Come on. How great will that be?
No.
So, yes, that's why Cornwell was in that preview that we saw, and she was freaking out. Where's Lorca? I got to get my money for my baby.
If that's true.
It's going to be fantastic. Come on.
Oh, man.
I know that this has to end up with someone. Someone has to be pregnant. Either Michael Burnham has to be pregnant with Tyler Vokash Klingon body baby, or
I feel like that one's more plausible.
Yeah, that one is way more plausible. But even though Cornwell seemed older by whatever century this is taking place in, they got all that stuff figured out.
They got all that locked down, even during a war.
Yeah, and you know that in the Mirror Universe they don't use any kind of protection, and she assumed that he was surgicized to not be able to have kids anymore. That was probably something they did back before when they killed that first bottle of whiskey back in the day. Anyway, so
craziness. That's craziness.
That's my fun, wacky theory for this episode.
Black alert.
And I think that we're actually over. I think we're done.
I think we are done as well.
An hour and 15 minutes of actual talk time.
Woo woo.
All right,
I'm excited. 2 more left.
I'm sad. 2 more left.
Sad and excited. It is a sad excitedness.
I'm a little bit sad, in myself in a way that I want to watch this next week more so than the Super Bowl. But it's good because this way I won't watch any of the Super Bowl beforehand. And then I'll watch Discovery, and then I'll just pick up my phone and I'll kind of glance at it and see what the score is. And if it's kind of close, then I can tune in. Maybe probably after Track. Maybe. I don't know. If it's
priorities.
Well, I mean, it's not so much priorities. It's that I used to be such a big Eagles fan. And they just wore me down.
Aww.
This town wore me down. The only team that can win is the Phillies every once in a while. And, ooh. I'm not a baseball fan. I mean, I liked playing when I was a kid, but all right, I'm babbling now. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to see if we can time this right, because for some reason on my software, I shut down the stream, and 10 seconds ago, it deletes it and stops it. So maybe they'll use streaming software to somehow stop the Klingons from beating us. It could happen.
I can't with you sometimes.
Let's shut down the stream and stop the Klingons.
That's all it would take? Nerds.
No,
we didn't need an algorithm for that.
Nice. All right. Bye, everyone, and we will see you next Tuesday with a discussion on that, and that's about it. Bye. We need a better outro.